Welcome to Reggie Red's Reactions. It's your boy, Reggie Red. Now today I got a video. It's about my new favorite politician. He's making headway. He's getting his name out there. He's getting up there. And we talking about James Talarico. He appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast and he was talking about his faith and how people think he's a Republican when he tell them he's a Christian, but he's not. He's a Democrat. And he like that the Democrats are for the small people, the marginalized communities. But we gonna hop right into it. And if you like this video by the end, make sure you like, comment, and share with your friends. And subscribe. Turn on them alert bells so you know when your boy dropping another video. Let's get it.
The journalism that's been done on Dunn and Wilkes, I think their ultimate goal is a theocracy. And again, this is very personal, given how important my faith is to me. But I'm a Christian, and I think there is no more dangerous form of government than theocracy. Because the only thing worse than a tyrant is a tyrant who thinks they're on a mission from God.
We haven't had any good examples of that in the past.
No.
There's not one that you go, well, that one worked out.
Right. And so this is people trying to use my religion to control people.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game. And we're seeing that here. I mean, Texas is, I'm an 8th generation Texan. My family's been here since it was Mexico. I love this state. But I've just seen people like Dunn and Wilkes just take us in this far right culture war direction at the expense of actual problems we need to solve. One of the bills that didn't pass last legislative session was a bill that would have provided funding for flood mitigation and emergency systems to get the word out when there's a flood. And we literally just saw the consequence of not passing that bill.
We've always had a separation of church and state. It's been very important. And that this imposing this on kids in school, in non-religious schools, just seems kind of crazy.
Well, and the staunchest defenders for the separation of church and state throughout American history were Protestant Christians, Baptists in particular, right? I mean, the letter Jefferson writes where he first uses that phrase, a wall of separation between church and state, was to the Danbury Baptists. Because, I mean, these Protestants were fleeing Europe as religious minorities, right? I mean, this is kind of essential to the founding of this country, was religious freedom. And so those Christians understood that once the government starts preaching your religion, starts making decisions about your faith, that doesn't lead anywhere good. So we should be very suspicious of the state usurping the role of pastors and Sunday school teachers. I mean, if you want to deepen your faith, we have churches on every street corner. A lot of them don't have a lot of people in them, right? We've got mosques and temples and synagogues that have a ton of room in them. And so why would we have the government start to teach kids about or preach a certain religion when we have houses of worship that can do that?
Yeah, I think it's also a really important point you made earlier, that if you try to force kids into doing things, they don't like to do it.
Correct.
And especially if you try to force kids they're secular and they come from households that maybe are atheists or agnostic, and then you have this on the wall,
right,
and you impose it on them.
Yeah,
they're going to think about it like they think about a lot of other government BS.
As they should.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think that Christianity has a lot to share with the world at this moment of kind of crisis everywhere. But this, again, is giving Christianity and religious people broadly a bad name. Because this is what people think about religious people, that we're more interested in imposing our faith or our values or our beliefs on others instead of living it out ourselves.
Yeah. What do you think this is in response to? Like, why do you think they're trying to impose this? What would make them want to put this in schools?
I think fear.
Fear.
And I get that fear. I want to acknowledge that I also feel this fear that, you know, I look across my church on Sunday mornings and I see a lot of gray hair. I worry about the future of my church, of my faith in this country. Everyone has seen the charts of declining religious participation and the decline in the number of people who belong to faith.
What do you think that's about?
I think a lot of it is well justified. because organized religion has done a lot of damage to people, particularly if we're talking about this country. About this country is going to be Christianity, right? Now, you know, in India it may be a conversation about Hindu nationalism, but here the dominant religion is Christianity, and you know, we've seen that too many churches, too many faith leaders have abused that trust. A lot of Gen Z, a lot of my fellow millennials, when they hear me talking about, you know, my faith and how it informs my public service, they're like, I've never heard of this kind of Christianity, right? Like, I was told that if you wanted to be a Christian, you had to hate gay people. If you wanted to be a Christian, you had to want to control women. If you wanted to be a Christian, you had to reject science. And so when Gen Z and when millennials were faced with that choice, it was a pretty easy choice for them, right? They chose their gay friends, they chose women's rights, they chose believing in science. And that, in my opinion, was always a false choice. And in fact, a lot of those positions that I just mentioned are contrary to biblical values, to the teachings of Jesus. And so, you know, there's always going to be progressive Christians and conservative Christians. That's a very healthy debate we should always have. But in this country, it's become synonymous with right-wing politics. So much so that when people hear I'm a Christian politician, they just assume I'm a Republican. I mean, so it's just, I think that has pushed a lot of people away.
So where does that come from? Okay, let's start with gay.
Yeah.
Where does this rejection of gay rights come from?
Well, I think broadly we should say that using religion to control the people is a tale as old as time, right? I mean, this is powerful stuff.
Right.
It's part of why I made the decision to go to seminary, because I was like, if I'm going to talk about my faith and my beliefs and my values in a public setting or on this podcast when millions of people are going to listen, I better know what I'm talking about. I better be thoughtful in how I approach these things, because it has real power on people's lives. And so I think you've seen that from the beginning of the Christian tradition. You've seen it across traditions of those in power, whether it's people with political power, social power in terms of homosexuality, or economic power, using that faith to hurt and control other people.
Well, there you have it, man. Like I say, that's my new favorite politician. He's getting up there, and he seems genuine, you know. And a lot of politicians don't seem genuine. It's like they got a forced rhetoric, but he don't. I mean, I'm only judging by what I see so far, and so far, so good. Anyway, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Leave a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. I'm trying to run this channel up. You know, I'm out of here. Peace.